My name is Daniel Roy Connelly, and I'm here to read 22 poems from my memoir in prose poetry entitled Extravagant Stranger, which was published in the summer of 2017. The memoir itself stretches from the night of my conception until shortly after my death, and covers therein my earliest memory, my school days, getting a job with a very sick father, getting a job with the Foreign Office at 17, traveling around the world, 3 continents, education, a very important one, coming back to Rome after many years. Rome itself is about 40% of the collection, and on through depression and finally my death. We'll come to that, of course. So I'd like to begin with the poem entitled 31 March 1965. Conception night, with a rush and a push, you slop out your verse, it makes mother blush. All over by the player's medium and a check of the pool's coupon, you kiss her forehead, pat her tummy, and are both fast asleep before you can flick the light out. When you wake the next morning, the bulb is blown. My day has already seen its fair share of action, there being no let-up in the tenebrous clamour, my dot nose bent to the heavy scent of woman. Not alone by any stretch, we keep formation, owls the fertilization bullseye. But it being April Fool's Day, I've got a few tricks up my slippery sleeve, practicing as I was back on the other side. Having bashed a few million into walls, I let rip from my tail a canister of gel, the nuclear option, which explodes deep inside her fallopian tube. Colt, crazy spermicide in my wake. I can't speak for the efforts mother's people make. I guess they must pull as hard as I push. This next poem is very much representative of a way that I have lived my life. It's also, I think, my first memory. And it's about a picture that has been passed down through generations. The photo portrait of Gentleman Jim, 1865 to 1935. The black and white photo portrait, size of a Vegas round card, profiles in a tree-shaded garden, his back to a thick brick wall 4 blocks high, left, right, my great-grandfather. A bollard of a man in long johns and plimsolls, a champion boxer. When at last I can hold my own cutlery, my father tells me about the milk-pale Irishman with bare fists raised, the outlaw wanted by the Marquis of Queensberry. See there, the Shamrock Belt. Jim was champion of all Europe, southpaw, which means he led with his right and hooked with his left, like this, boom, boom. They'd go at it for hours, knuckle to knuckle, toe to toe. You see that lick of red hair pasted down by generations, the Connelly knees, legs slightly bowed. Look at how we're standing now, our feet at 3 o'clock precisely. Gentleman, because he spoke with excellent grammar and dressed with care. That's your blood, son. Up there's a man who took a hell of a lot of beating, all of it against the law. If the policeman had come. He's standing tall because he hit them all back and a hell of a lot harder too. That's you. Since my father died, Gentleman Jim has hung above me. There's no limit to resemblance. We don't go down so easily, sharpened by self-harm. He's nowhere to be found on Google. Unorthodox, the genes fight gamely on. I'm going to move on now to, I'm going to have to skip 10 years here in terms of the time that I have for this recording, and the fact that I can't do the whole memoir. So I'm jumping from the age of 4 to the age of 14. I went to a grammar school. I was due to go to a secondary modern. I got a borderline on my 11 plus. There was a phone call on the last day at primary school. Someone had dropped out of the local grammar school. All boys, would I like a place? Yes, I said, because it was only 2 miles and the other place was 10 miles away. So I was very happy to change up there. However, this is about what boys are like, 14-year-olds at grammar school. This is called The Spare Parts Man, 1980. Lunchtimes in 4th year, we skulk to the brook, where Fridays, Cyclops Malloy crashes one shiny black pack of John Player specials he's got with coins he's nicked off his dad. They won't let me share their fags. You always leave the end wet. But I need the smoke less than the company. Cyclops once left his glass eye floating in the tumbler on Ma'am Cook's desk as she tottered into English under a pile of Keats and Shelley. I shall never forget her scream, or the sound of spines cracking against the floor. Without the fake peeper, the socket was a tight, moist hole. Like a fanny, Gary Smith says, chucking his empty biro upstream. He let me finger it last week. Quick as you like, I call Cyclops Pussyface. So he calls me Dan the Spare Parts Man. This is new. Because your face is a face of other people's parts. Your ears are too big to be yours. If you ever kiss a girl, your teeth are so far apart that if you ever kiss a girl, her tongue will go between them. Your hair is off a corpse. Your glasses are wank. Your ears, your nose, just plain wrong. You're wearing fucking winkle pickers with Lionel fucking Blairs. Your dad's a spaz in bed all day. Your mum cleans people's houses. You were seen with an Elvis album last week. You've always got a stiffy in your trousers. You're pubeless, you. Dan the Spare Parts Man. Give us a 12, spacko. Sus. I can't remember if that's a soliloquy or a monologue. But like super glue on a bus seat, Dan the Spare Parts Man is gonna stick, because they're shitting themselves, laughing, waggling their ears, poking out their teeth, dancing like they reckon I dance, thanks to the nickname of the century. While Gary Smith's Bic comes eddying along in a tight circle, half floating nowhere. When I was 11, my father got very, very ill, sick. It didn't recover for the rest of his life. He was effectively bedbound. It was a huge shock, massive change for the family. He was self-employed. We lived on benefits for many, many years. It was catastrophic, really. This is a poem about me coming home from school and seeing him. It's called The Ferrari in Fenchurch Street. Fresh off the number 17 and school tie pocketed, I climb the stairs up to the room where you lie on your back, the illness holding you bolt still, the ceiling, same as yesterday for company. Hello, son. I take your knuckles into my fists like I'm shielding abandoned eggs. Did I tell you, you begin, about Spencer Moore and our Italian job? No? One lunchtime before you were born, he and I were crossing Fenchurch Street when a Rome-plated scarlet Ferrari screeched to a halt inches from us. Effortlessness deserting him, Spencer Moore, Harrow and Cambridge brought down his hand on the bonnet. You are a damnable fool, signor. The driver sprang from his pride and joy, put out by this national affront. Hey, you think because I'm Italian, I know fucking nothing, eh? This is you English, huh? Well, I tell you one thing, because I'm Italian, I know fuck all. I roar like his engine screaming off. My father speaks paralyzed, save his fingertips, which tickle my palm on each expletive. Then, as I mentioned earlier, I got a job at 17 with the Foreign Office. There was an advert in the Daily Mail, I know, years ago. And I applied and I interviewed and I got a job at the Foreign Office where I was to stay for the next 13 years. This is one of my very early recollections of my time in the diplomatic service in London. It's called God's Blood, 1983. Taking the FCO corridors at a clip in a toad green three-piece of my dad's 4 inches shorter than me, now I'm 17, with a manila envelope of top-secret papers about Stasi infiltration of a Coventry-Dresden town twinning event tonight. Picking at the red lead seal like he's teasing a scab, Lord Nicholas Gordon Lennox, who might also be God easing back into his olive leather 19th century conference chair, slides in a hand to remove the briefings I stapled 5 minutes ago, only to prick his finger. God's blood spots the top left of the thicker than usual paper. Tell the damn fool I only accept clips, and if I find out who it is, he's going to Somalia, he says, pointing the wounded digit directly at my nose, although he might also be creating man, in which case forgiveness begs a tinkering. Shortly after this, I started to do a lot of traveling around the world. I was posted firstly to Rome when I was 20, then to Bombay, then to Dhaka, Bangladesh, and I went off to New York to start my education. However, at this time then I'm doing a lot of traveling, and this poem here is called 5 People and 1 Animal I've Sat Next to on Planes. The Pearly King of Croydon, in full ceremonial gear, 20 kilograms of buttons on his 3-piece threads and matching pearly cap. He disappears at customs in Bombay. The bloke in business class in the shell suit who drinks so much he pukes all over it. He grabs his carry-on from the overhead, returns from the toilet wearing a pristine clone, tags attached. The Canadian woman in business class who is convinced I am James Woods, the famous actor. Convinced I'm lying. Lying's your job, James. She threatens to hit me until the crew step in to mediate for the next 6 hours. The Saudi princess who boards at Jeddah, covered up to the eyes, burqa, niqab, in her hand a pile of censored magazines. Seatbelt sign switched off, she returns from the loo, hair down to her waist, heavily made up in a sequined top and Gloria Vanderbilt jeans. The farmer in seat 29C of Bangladesh B-man who cooks his lunch on a Calagas stove and eats with the crew, never happier to land at Chittagong. A goat on the return leg back to Dhaka. I'm in India now, working for the Foreign Office at the Deputy High Commission in Bombay. I need to get a driving license. Failed my test in the UK. That's how I got a driving license. It's called getting the nod. Straight through a red light, clip a beady seller on the curb with my wing mirror, pull out way too soon onto Calabar Causeway, horns everywhere, cows everywhere, indicate incorrectly, then left instead of right at Mahatma Gandhi roundabout, stall on several technicals, examiner not happy. Nod backwards to a bottle of Black Label, boxed and wrapped on the rear seat of the Escort. all smiles. Told to drive expressly every day so as to improve. Pink chitty in my hand, copied sixfold. Congratulations, sir, you are legal on the roads of India. This next poem is about me in New York City, where I was very fortunate to be accepted by a great university to do my undergraduate degree at the age of 29. And as with any good education, there are always epiphanies that arise, I think. There's memorable moments when things make sense. This is one of them. It's called The View Down Broadway, 1997. I am walking on Broadway after a literature seminar. The view from 116th Street is nothing special. The wide lanes are dead straight and dip down towards the Midtown skyscrapers which dominate a few miles on. From here, I can see all the way to a vanishing. Suddenly, my line of sight is trapped in the receding formations of curved geometries. I stop still as my head overloads with Cosimo de' Medici and Stoppard's jumpers and the buttery light of rebirth in Ghirlandaio's funeral of St. Francis and Weber's theory of pure charisma. Millions of jumbled letters buoyed by ideas on a sea of sunshine that is like lemon on my tongue. Age 31. At last, it all lines up. I see them and they see me. History holds hands with the humanities, and my life enmeshes instantly with the architecture of the known. As I stand here outside Columbia at the end of bricks and houses and rooftops and shop fronts and awnings and people, thousands, walking either side of the street. Everybody leading away from my eyes. And I can see what is at the very end of this, and I can say we are all in it together. That was a powerful time, I have to say. That was intense. From my undergraduate, I then proceed to a PhD at University of St. Andrews, a master's and a PhD there. I wrote on, as you'll hear, on Othello, and which is where the title of my memoir comes from, Extravagant Stranger. He's called an extravagant stranger at an early part of the play. This poem, as a result of my PhD, is called Phoenicia. Muhammad Ali spoke of my undergrad. I reached through dozens of shoulders to touch his arm. Sir Trevor MacDonald at my PhD. I told him I'd written about Othello, a successful black man. And finally, he said, dispensing with his mortarboard and moving sideways to a biologist named Phoenicia. After my PhD, I had a massive breakdown, a total nervous mental breakdown. And it's at that time that I met the woman who would become my wife. We were post-degree, both of us, not in great shape financially, living in Norfolk as well. So this poem is called Table 27. This is what we got up to, Table 27. Gangsters in a basement diner, we shift our scheming faces to sit side by side at a trestle in the corner for the dimmer light and panoramic views. Straight off, I start the lookalike game. The old boy by the stairs has a touch of Peter Ustinov. Our waitress shares the features of a teacher I once knew. But to you, they're all pig farmers. When we spread our broadsheets on the cloth, the heft of paper nudges all the cutlery around. We order coffee, juice, chorizo pizza. You tack on the dish du jour, posh cheddar cheese on toast. We lord and lady it for 90 minutes, lapping up the local gossip, making plans to find employment, smirking when young William pokes a swizzle in his baby sister's eye. This meal will be on me, I say, For all the hope you give, I'll give you something back for nothing. The waitress tips her brow up to the ceiling. Tell them table 27. The queue at the till inches forward. In the polite clamor, we step simultaneously out of line, away from the willing to pays. We walk briskly for the street in total silence, neither of us in the slightest doubt. We keep on walking and buzzing for hours. God, that felt good. And this concludes this poem concludes the first section of the memoir. My best friend killed himself 11 years ago. We had a very fractious relationship, but we loved one another from the age of 10. We had an enormous argument the last time I saw him, which was about 3 months before he died. I didn't speak to him in the meantime, and then about a month before he died, I was in Canada on a coach, and he phoned me, and I didn't pick up the phone. This poem is called Doll for Stew. If Mattel ask me to design a doll that best remembers you, I will pore long and hard over blueprints to appear blurry-eyed at dawn and announce that he will have a different personality for every day of the week and will come with blemishes like his knuckles being pre-worn down from smashing other dolls in the face, and he'll be able to screw up his own face into a tight knot, eyes no more than slits, when laughing in his highly infectious way, which will be activated by a cord coming out of his chest. Removable miniature leg tattoos of crosses and squirrely dragons with names and dates in Gothic font with spares. Hugging arms, a vast invisible heart, and accessories like a tiny mobile with one number in it, mine, that he will ring often, even if I don't want him to. So, part 2. I moved to Rome. I'm married, and we've just had a little boy, baby boy, love of my life. This section is really about Rome, transformation, metamorphosis, things not quite being what they seem. And I'll begin with a poem about Gian Lorenzo Bernini's statue of Apollo and Daphne, which is at the Galleria Borghese in Rome. It's one of the great art galleries of the world. And it's a statue from Ovid's Metamorphosis. Apollo is just on the point of grabbing Daphne, and Zeus releases her and turns her into a laurel tree just before Apollo can fully grab her. And the statue itself is absolutely remarkable. And this opening poem is called Let's Go to Bernini for this one. Imagine having the power to release Daphne's legs, to see those frozen twines green for the second time, loosening. Imagine prizing Daphne away from the laurel, splitting the vines, the deep marks in her calves dissipating in the way of all flesh. Set her free, but keep the failed Apollo in place, gripping a pile of dead branches, telling true tales of old like they're happening now, but not for long. Immaculate. It is a December morning in Rome for which the word immaculate exists. The sky is baby blue and spotless. In my long-sleeved shirt, I might be a general returned from the Gallic Wars. Pine trees arching my entry into the villa, weeds waving scrolls in the breeze, Ancient statues of gods and great men lining up to shake my hand, the gravel cracking beneath my feet as I parade from one side of the park to the other. This is how to live, like the sun, triumphal, whatever. And I got a couple about buildings now in Italy. I think probably you'll recognize the first one. I'm firstly in Rome, then I'm going to go to Florence for a couple. This is called Pantheon. Notwithstanding sciatica, I have staggered to my second job as a tour guide so as to spread love among the firmament, some of which we can see here if we look through the hole in the roof, or oculus, as we Pantheonistas have it. Questions? Nope, I'm only part-time. Better questions? Yes, there's a very clever drainage system here, see. So when the rain comes through the oculus, it runs away into those rivulets there, designed by the Romans 2,000 years ago. We still don't know how they did it. They certainly had one over on us when it comes to putting a massive hole in your roof. Moreover, there are a couple of kings immured in... yes, it comes from muro, as in buried in the wall. Whereas the artist Raphael is entombed over there, though personally I'm more drawn to his cartoons. Questions? Good, shall we move on to the glorious Trevi Fountain? A lovely stroll with pinched nerves through tight twisting paths that ribbon the heart of Rome. You don't see that from the back of a Merc. And here she is, in glorious decadence, and laden with coins that idiots like you throw in, believing you'll come back to Rome someday. If I could do it all again, I would build old-school fountains in busy city centre locations and invest in them a riddle or a mystery moment in time, the answer to which would be 3 single euro coins. And I'd kick back in my beach palace to live out my days. But for now, that'll be 20 each. Cheers. Going to take us to Florence now. This is called the Lorenzo the Magnificent Lego Experience Shop, Florence. A knee-high, verdigris, multi-leveled Michelangelo David wedges open the door. Inside, an empire. Besides the shelves of self-assembly Ponte Vecchio kits and the enormous selection of bases for palazzi and burial chapels, there are thousands of Lego figures of princes and dukes and counts and their bed-tied pregnant women and silent mothers, some holding tiny letters in recognizable font of God-sent love for the arts and sciences. On top of the cash register, an unshaved villain dangles grimacing with the usual limbs from a strappado. I ask why the pyres are in the 50% off bucket, but everyone seems too busy to answer. Uninspired, I climb over a young woman who's reconstructing a 15th century Florentine execution, who asks me to unwedge the door on the way out. And this is about the fantastic cathedral in Florence, Santa Croce. I am standing in the 15th century Basilica of Santa Croce in Florence, with Cimabue's crucifixion directly over my skull like a lightning strike. I chose to enter for prayer, thereby saving €6, although I was followed by the keen eyes of the attendant. I sat in the appointed side chapel, but before long I wanted to get into that transept, because anywhere they bury Michelangelo, Machiavelli, or Galileo is sure to be a big hit with visitors from all kinds of sacred and secular backgrounds, content to spend their hard-earned leisure money in this way. Because more than anything, I wanted to be beneath Cimabue's crucifixion, I rose and mock-crossed myself, spectacles, testicles, wallet, and watch, and skipped backwards through the broken link partition that reminded me of St. Peter's chains in that elsewhere church. However, the attendant, who appeared out of nowhere, refused to accept my argument and is telling me that if my prayers are over, I must now leave. As if my prayers are ever over, I reply, my eyes drawn to the serrated light above. I told you we had a little boy, my son was born, and here's a dad poem for him. It's called Bath Time's Over. Your chubby wrists, pot belly, toy rugby thighs stick to my chest like you're not yet born. Lines ripple your skin, your dough calves pulse as I wrap you whole in a scarlet towel. Your left eye is held closed by water droplets. Your forecurl presents a perfect question mark. One day you might subject your father to the same scrutiny. As I gasp at a roadside, or keel over at a party to laughter, or am brought down from a gallows in a forest somewhere foreign. Here's a Ryanair poem. Yeah, I'm sure that we're pretty much used to that. This is the second airport in Rome, Ciampino. That's the title of the poem. It's a military airport, which has been kind of made into a commercial airport. It's just not the best airport in the world. Ciampino. Lost in airport limbo on linked up plastic seats, waiting. Everybody waiting, getting het in the temporary terminal, waiting on the announcement, staring at the boards. We've all got something waiting in us. We who hate doing nothing, waiting to fly off to do not much else. Someone's bound to flick someone the wrong look. Who you calling a cunt, you cunt? And it will happen soon enough. Fuck this low-cost Sabbath of misrule. Fuck this for someone's idea of fun. Stick a fucking knife in me, waiters. I'm done. I also told you that my marriage fell apart. This is called A Walk in the Park, 2012. It is darkening over after a cloudless afternoon. We are walking in the park past Scipione Borghese's Gallery of Wonders. The boy is in his smart new coat chasing terriers, stopping for leaves, sticks, no one. We are lost and weighing where to go. My jaw clenches statuesque. Sweat runs down my lower back as you suddenly dart to our son who's about to eat dog shit. Turning into the copse at dusk, we come to the funerary monuments or bathtubs. I get confused. And the marble slabs from Roman columns that stack up. I can see you filling with despair like a cloud fills with rain. Your red hair is beautiful in this dying light. We have been in silence for 20 minutes. I cannot tell you I have stopped caring for you and don't know if I can care for you again. But I can beg you not to leave, not to take him away from me. Just as I'm about to blurt, I think I'll lose my mind if you pack up and go. He dives to the dry mud ground, arms and legs outstretched, the parachute regiment. By the children's playhouse, you suddenly remove your gloves and say first my name, and then that things must change, that it is time I cared for you more and more often. As I pull him into my chest at the foot of the slide, I tell him Daddy loves him, and he sees a helicopter. We three are staring in different directions in total silence at something unknown, only breeze between us now. That ends part 2, and finally I've got 3 more poems in part 3. I promised you that this would end beyond my death. I won't let you down. It's also, there's also, this poem is about a lifelong struggle with depression that I've had. There's a little bit more about it in the memoir. I didn't want to bring them out really now. I wanted to keep it kind of as light as possible. So this is the poem about depression then, that covers that one. It's about the trope of depression, about the black dog. This is called A Letter to My Son, R.E. Black Dog. That's how you might hear him named. A colour, an animal. May he never be known by you. He's the vortex in the plug hole I once stared at with wonder, and my cupboard emptied of toys, years of acquisition, a master magician. Some animals contain nothing more than shadows of themselves, which in any case can't be seen without the presence of light. When you jump from a breakwater into sumptuous sand, allow for some confusion among the milliard grains that swallow your calves. They'll never be the same again either, or the next time. Trust in perpetual revolution, but never let the dusk in your head turn night. Make fair weather Mao your beacon of light. Whenever I'm a tree and Black Dog comes to climb me, I'm a sycamore with leaves low enough to sense from distance, welcoming branches, diasporic roots, and a trunk set firmly gnarled with age to observe day after day Black Dog lick his lips and climb his way most surely to the top, where the only view is the one inside, and it's never, not once, looked all that good from here. P.S. Should Black Dog ever bark your name, say one autumn dawn when you're alone, tickle his jaw, tip him a treat, tell him your father survived his games, and force him supine into the dust at your feet. Here's one about looking back a long way, how the past informs the present. The title comes from William Faulkner, who famously said, the past is never dead, it's not even past. Late July, 1976. A clump of grass rubbed into a concrete lamppost. 3 lines squeezed out with sap to stump height. A shard of wood for a bat, next door's old tennis ball, packet of Tic Tacs, escorts all the way round the cul-de-sac, chip it over for runs, but whack one over the top without bouncing, that's my lot. Time to be Alan Knott, the wicket keeper, or the bowler holding. The batsman's Willie, deputy inquire, cricket mad, the Windies are in town. We play under test conditions until the street floodlighting comes on and it's dinner time. That devotion, that energy, that joy, to go to bed to wake tomorrow for another day's play because the Windies are in town and the boys aren't back at school for a month or more. That's what I call pining for. And the final poem, number 22. It's called Over My Dead Body. In death, my hair is swept back by a loving brush. Lines are lifted to lightness in repose, floating the road to my next and final stop. Set fair with a dandy clip and a sprig in my lapel, a ghostly offshoot dropping in to catch the feel of things. Busier than I thought. Thanks, kid, for changing me into Oswald Boateng's 1999 deep purple moleskin 2-piece. Now, take the coins away. Let me assist with a waft. Watch my eyelids spring asunder, their focus intent on the beamed ceiling. Not a trace of movement in the mouth. Was that thunder? Repeat the coins. The other kids will love it. By the way, if this is someone's idea of final rest, think again. Dad's soul went south. Long overdue, an eternity of forced creative labor under distant, careful watch. Is that an erection in my trousers? Is that why half Rome's turned up to say farewell? I must say it looks fine. Of vital importance, the dead remains. Taxidermy, sand from Leon Sea, stood in perpetuity in Piazza Navona, shrouded in Boateng and wraparound knockoff Versace's. Tourists will swear I never as much as twitched, and will throw straight to trust fund coins, which will find their way to you, there, top end of the coffin, liking very much my barefoot chic, scrubbing another tear away with your eye. I try to touch your face, but I'm no longer made of anything. I've only come because you believe in me still, like I told you to that day 12 years ago when you asked me what you will do when I am gone. Here's the answer, and I'll be on my way. Take from this final view everything you want to smirk at for the rest of your life. The extravagant eyes, the stranger's couture, the surprise in the trousers, the fact that your financial future is furled, secured, with many trips to the Piazza's bank. The empty purple moleskin is currently lost in song all the way to the underworld. That's what you can do for me. Now I am gone. Thank you.